in honor of Daniel-SMarkey, a sharp thinker and seasoned diplomat whose work has not only informed policymakers, but also illuminated one of the most complex relationships in modern geopolitics, the tense, layered, and often paradoxical bond between the United States and Pakistan. Through deep research, first-hand experience, and unflinching analysis, Markey offers us a window into the shadows of diplomacy, where no easy exits exist. This narration is a reflection of his clarity and care in tackling a subject that is as emotionally charged as it is strategically vital. After September 11, 2001, the United States found itself turning toward Pakistan, not out of trust, but out of necessity. The attacks had been traced back to terrorist networks entrenched in Afghanistan, and Pakistan, Afghanistan's neighbor, held the keys to the mountain passes, the tribal hideouts, and the geopolitical corridors necessary for America's response. Yet even as US officials shook hands with Pakistani leaders, there was an undercurrent of suspicion. Washington needed Islamabad, but had every reason not to trust it. The alliance was transactional. Overnight, years of sanctions imposed after Pakistan's nuclear tests were lifted. Billions of dollars in aid, mostly military, flowed into the coffers of a country whose intelligence services had, until recently, actively supported the Taliban. General Pervez Musharraf, then the military ruler of Pakistan, emerged as America's point man. In public, he pledged full cooperation in the war on terror. Behind closed doors, however, Pakistan's military and intelligence services hedged their bets, preserving ties with groups that had long served their interests in Afghanistan and Kashmir. The relationship from the beginning was built on mutual deceit. America needed Pakistan's cooperation to strike at al-Qaeda and Taliban elements hiding in the borderlands. Pakistan needed American money and international legitimacy. Yet both sides knew the other's motives were not pure. The cooperation was tactical, not strategic, temporary, not transformational. Musharraf, secular and urbane, knew how to speak to Western audiences. But inside Pakistan, he navigated a minefield of rising extremism, institutional decay, and a society suspicious of American intentions. This uneasy partnership defined much of the 2000s. The CIA and ISI, Pakistan's inter-services intelligence, worked together. But the relationship was more of necessity than trust. On some occasions, information was shared to carry out strikes on terror leaders. On others, it was withheld to protect national assets. The drone campaign that emerged during this time, first limited, then accelerating, only added to the friction. While effective in eliminating high-value targets, drone strikes became a symbol of American intrusion and Pakistani weakness. The Pakistani public, already wary of the West, saw civilians caught in the crossfire. The United States, on the other hand, saw a state unable or unwilling to clean its own house. What made the US-Pakistan relationship more precarious was that it wasn't just about terrorism, it was about identity, sovereignty, and strategic vision. Pakistan viewed itself as the guardian of Muslim interests in South Asia, locked in eternal rivalry with India. The United States, especially under the Bush and Obama administrations, began seeing India as a long-term ally and counterweight to China. This strategic tilt further deepened Pakistan's insecurities. From Islamabad's perspective, the US was propping up its arch-nemesis while demanding loyalty in a war that was increasingly destabilizing Pakistan from within. The more the United States invested in Afghanistan, the more Pakistan felt squeezed. It feared being encircled by Indian influence in Kabul. So, while Pakistani soldiers died fighting their own Taliban insurgents in the northwest, their intelligence operatives continued to support groups like the Haqqani network, which targeted US troops in Afghanistan. This duplicity enraged American commanders and diplomats, yet cutting ties with Pakistan was never seriously considered. Geography wouldn't allow it. Neither would nuclear realities. With over 100 nuclear warheads, Pakistan was too dangerous to fail, too unstable to fully trust, and too essential to ignore. Markey points out that America faced not one, but three interconnected Pakistan problems. First, the rise of Islamist militancy, which had taken root not just in the tribal areas, but increasingly in the urban centers, religious schools, and even the ranks of the military. Second, a fragile state apparatus, corrupt, disorganized, and often paralyzed by infighting between civilian leaders and the military elite. Third, a strategic rival, obsessed with India and increasingly drawn toward China, and whose long-term goals were fundamentally misaligned with America's vision of regional stability. When Musharraf eventually stepped down, hopes rose that civilian governance might shift the tide. The return of democratic leaders, first Asif Ali Zardari and later Nawaz Sharif, was seen as an opportunity to build a broader, people-centric partnership. But the reality was more disappointing. Civilian leaders were weak, often compromised, and unable to assert authority over the military establishment. America's attempt to engage Pakistan's people through economic assistance, educational reform, and civil society programs often met resistance. Some programs were poorly designed, others fell prey to conspiracy theories that portrayed even humanitarian aid as espionage. At the heart of the impasse was mistrust, deep and mutual. American leaders saw Pakistani duplicity as a threat to their soldiers and strategy. Pakistani leaders saw American intentions as neo-colonial and dangerously tilted toward India. In this climate, each crisis deepened the divide. When Raymond Davis, a CIA contractor, shot and killed 2 Pakistanis in Lahore in 2011, it nearly ruptured the relationship. And then came the ultimate blow, the US Navy SEAL raid in Abbottabad that killed Osama bin Laden. That one act, carried out without informing Pakistani authorities, laid bare the full collapse of trust. How could bin Laden have lived just a mile from Pakistan's elite military academy without someone knowing? Whether by design or incompetence, it was a devastating revelation. Pakistani pride was shattered. American confidence, already low, plummeted further. And yet, once again, both nations realized they had no choice but to continue the relationship, however broken. Markey doesn't spare either side in his analysis. He acknowledges that American policy has often been short-term, reactive, and hypocritical, praising democracy when convenient, funding dictators when useful. Pakistan, meanwhile, has long manipulated its role as a frontline state, extracting support while playing both sides. This toxic dynamic, rooted in history and hardened by necessity, has defied every attempt at reset. Throughout the book, Markey returns to a haunting theme. There is no exit. The United States cannot afford to abandon Pakistan, nor can it fully fix it. The best it can do is manage the relationship, limit the damage, protect its interests, and avoid the worst-case scenarios. Total rupture would be catastrophic, especially in a nuclear-armed country with rising extremism. But full partnership, based on shared values and trust, remains elusive. What makes Markey's work so compelling is that he doesn't offer false hope. He argues for a clear-eyed, pragmatic approach, strengthening ties with Pakistani civil society where possible, engaging with the military when necessary, and always preparing for the possibility of crisis. He urges America to diversify its regional strategy, working more closely with India and Afghanistan, while still maintaining engagement with Pakistan. It is not a strategy of optimism, but one of realism. Looking ahead, the challenges are as daunting as ever. Pakistan's youth bulge, economic struggles, and energy crises continue to fuel instability. Extremist narratives remain powerful, and democratic institutions are still fragile. China's growing presence through the China-Pakistan economic corridor adds a new layer of complexity to the equation. Washington must navigate this shifting landscape without illusions, understanding that every policy decision will have ripple effects far beyond South Asia. Markey's final message is sobering but essential. America must learn to live with Pakistan's contradictions. There will be moments of cooperation and periods of conflict. The key is to remain engaged, informed, and prepared. walking away is not an option. Isolation invites chaos. Engagement, however frustrating, is the only viable path. And so we close the final chapter of No Exit from Pakistan, a journey through a relationship bound by geography, marred by mistrust, and haunted by the impossibility of a clean break. Through the lens of DanielSMarkey, we've seen the truth behind the headlines, the uneasy handshake, the invisible red lines, the silent calculations that define US-Pakistan diplomacy. Markey didn't write this book to offer comfort. He wrote it to challenge illusions, to make us look squarely at a partnership shaped by necessity, not affection. A story where exits are illusions, and every step forward must be measured with care. It's not about choosing allies we love. It's about understanding the ones we can't ignore. To DanielSMarkey, thank you for your clarity, for your honesty, and for your courage in telling the story most avoid. This book is not just about geopolitics. It's about the fragile art of staying engaged when walking away feels easier. If this story moved you, opened your eyes, or made you think differently about the world, let us know. Like, comment, and share your thoughts below. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, subscribe to our channel, Your Book Dose, where books meet powerful narration, one page at a time. This was No Exit from Pakistan, told not just as history, but as a warning, a lesson, and above all, a reality we must learn to live with. Until the next chapter, stay curious, stay informed, and never underestimate the power of a book.